Hello, and welcome back to a very special episode of Romantasy Readers Podcast. I am Alley, and as always, I am joined by my fantastic co-host Nicole, who was pestering me to read this book, the books that we're going to talk about today, and I finally did, and I completely understand now why she was like, "You must read these," and that is the books The Wolf King and The Night Prince by Lauren. I don't know how to say her last name.
Lauren Palphreyman, that's how I say it, but that could be me just throwing in an Aussie accent. I feel so bad because I feel like I'm always sending books to Alley and going, you have to read this, you have to read this. And she probably can't tell the level difference that there's like the books I'm obsessed about and there's the books I'm obsessed about. And this one was like up here. I was there.
I could tell because I always eventually try to get to the books that you recommend. I really do. It's so funny, when we first started this podcast, it was like reversed, and I was the one that was always like, Nicole, you have to read this so we can talk about it. And then we've shifted a little bit.
Started writing again.
Try to write, yeah. So I don't read as much anymore. But I could tell that this one, there was something special about these because you were very like, you have to read them.
I was persistent. I think I was writing in capitals in repeat. You have to read The Wolf King. You have to read The Wolf King. You have to read. This is the next ACOTAR. And I do not even now, after a few weeks of reading it and reading a few other things since, I am still standing by what I said then, that this for me is as good. I put it up there with ACOTAR and Fourth Wing, and just the level of, firstly, obsession that I have and that I didn't want to leave the world. I just want to go back. Even now, a few weeks later, I want to go back and read it again. Everyone who has picked it up since I've recommended it has come back to me raving about how much they've loved these books, about how they are going into book depression when they're over and having the same level of excitement that I do. So I'm so excited to bring this to the podcast today because I think that these books are very, very special.
Yeah. And we're going to do something a little bit different today. So there are two books out in this series, and we have both read both books. And so today is really going to just be us talking about both books as opposed to one book at a time. And honestly, I think that's better because I don't think if you read book one, you are going to want to stop and listen to a podcast and before you come to book two. So if you have not, we're going to have a spoiler-free zone. So you don't have to have read them both yet. You can kind of listen, learn a little bit about them, and then immediately you need to go read them both and then come back and listen to this episode. So we're going to talk about both. They're so good. Before we dive too deep in, though, it has been a while since we've recorded. The Romantasy Readers podcast has really slowed down. Part of that is that there hasn't been books that have gotten us as like,
that's right. This is about quality over quantity, guys. Like, we want you to know that when you see an episode of Romantasy Readers podcast, we're not just filling in airtime, we're bringing quality. So we only want to talk about the things that we're really excited about, that we go, we're putting everything down, we're putting our current reads down, we're putting life on hold, we're coming to you and we're giving you the things that we're really excited about.
For fans of my book, The Witch Queen, I am pausing writing book 2 to record this episode because these books are so good. So
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry you're going to have to wait a little bit longer, but it's going to be worth it.
It's worth it.
Talk about it for a moment because not about your book, about a bit of the lull I feel like we've maybe been in. I don't know if you felt the same way or other people in the Romantasy book talk world. Do you feel like there's a bit of a lull at the moment? I feel like there is. What do you think, Alley?
I feel like, it is tough when you don't have some of those breakout authors like SJM and Sarah, SJ, I almost said Sarah J. Maas and SJM. Rebecca Yarros and SJM releasing anything in this calendar year, which does... Wait, did Onyx Storm come out in this calendar year?
It came out in January. It was, and But I think there's even just the fact that we know she hasn't even started writing the next one yet. She's had a bit of a break.
People know that. We know that there's not a lot going on. And there have been some books that have really come to the top. Obviously, Silver Elite was very popular this year. Shield of the Sparrows, very popular.
And we're getting books like Brimstone coming out. There's definitely some other authors, like Danielle Jensen is pumping them out. She's delivering. We're definitely getting some awesome Alchemized. She's obviously been massive. We've definitely had some big books come out, but it is very, I feel like Book Talk, Romantasy, it thrives on its life essence is Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros. I want to say that we
haven't had, and I do think that like it's ripe for another author to become
100%.
one of, like, I think there could be 3 or 4, right? I just don't know that anything has quite, and I actually think there are books that have come out that are good enough to be on that level, right? Some of it is, it's not just about quality. There's some level of luck and, you know,
it's
just
something
virality.
about, for me, it's about obsession. It's about that thing about it that makes it addictive. And for me, I mean, ultimately, as Sarah J. Maas has ultimately been disappointing. I was really hoping that by this time, in January, it's been 2 years officially since Hofast came out, and this is the longest we've had to wait between a previous book and the next book. Completely understand that she's in a different phase of her life right now with little children and things like that, but we really need the next book. And I feel like I put this back to when I was 13 years old, and I don't even know if you'll know this band, Alley, but I was a massive Hanson fan. Like, I know
Hanson. They are from Oklahoma.
Oh, yes. Oh my God. I was so obsessed. I was this little 13-year-old that was obsessed with them.
Can I tell you something, Nicole? I don't know that I've ever told you this. When growing up, my babysitter dated one of them. No joke.
Oh my God.
No joke. One of them came to like my 9th birthday party, and I was so I was
came to your 9th birthday party.
Yes,
which one?
I'm a little bit younger than you. I'm a little bit younger than you.
Yes.
I don't even know who it was because it wasn't registered for me. It's only one.
Can you recall if they were like had a horse face, or if they?
I think it was like the youngest was who
Zach.
she was dating.
Zach. Yes, I remember the names. It's ingrained in my brain.
Like, I couldn't even tell you all their names, but Zach sounds familiar. So, claim to fame.
Oh my God, that is so exciting. There is like, it is a small world, guys. There's like, it's still somewhere deep in the recesses of my 13-year-old brain back here. Like, there's a little person jumping up and down and squealing in delight.
I met Zach Hanson at my 9th birthday party.
So at 13, I was obsessed with Hanson. Like their album came out, it was amazing. I was obsessed, like posters all over my room, like pretended we were marrying them every other day. I liked Taylor. My cousin liked Zach, and we loved it. Anyway, so they released a Christmas album, and then they didn't release anything for ages, for what felt like years. And I remember being, I think, about 15 and thinking to myself, if they don't release something soon, I'm going to fall out of love with them. Like, I remember kind of having that moment where I thought, if I don't get some kind of something to feed me soon, I'm going to move on. And I did. I moved on to Backstreet Boys or Leonardo DiCaprio or whatever it was by then. But it was like, you can wait too long. If you wait too long, it just starts to you've got to feed us in some way, even if it's just with social media updates. And, you know, I've even heard Diana Gabaldon, she has 5 years between books, but she's really good at keeping her fans updated on how she's going and how she's progressing. And we're not even getting that. We're just getting complete radio silence, which is hard.
Yeah, I know. It has been a lull. I hope that, you know, either there's another breakout author or there's, I mean, that to me is what I hope, because I can appreciate, you know, like Rebecca Yarros has said, like, I have to have a break or the quality is not going to be there. And I can completely appreciate that. So I really just hope, because what I love is that, you know, that cultural moment of everyone being obsessed with something at the same time 100%. And everyone making theories about it, and that's your whole feed, and that is so fun. And so I really hope that something breaks out so that we can have a little bit of that, and maybe it will be these books. Okay, before we dive too far into the Wolf King and the Night Prince, though, because it has been a while since we've recorded just you and me, and we've done some
Yeah.
interviews in between, what have you been reading other than The Wolf King and the Night Prince?
Other than The Wolf King and the Night Prince, because I read it like 3 times. At the moment, I am obsessed with Audible. I am
Yeah.
devouring. I actually have almost been finding it difficult to actually pick up a book and read it. And especially when there's been Audible books like The Wolf King and the Night Prince, where you got the dual narration. It's been so good. I have just finished, which again was another obsession, Diabound and Duskbound. No,
I've heard about those.
Mistborn and Duskbound. So I'm not mixing them up. These were recommended by another bookstagrammer, and she had done me right with The Wolf King and the Night Prince, and she was obsessed with this series as well. It kind of said the first one was just okay. It wasn't like amazing. It was just all right. And then the second book was like 5 stars, raving about it, was one of the best things she's read all year. So I went, okay. And I was the same. I sort of started the first one. It was good. I liked it. It was kind of Fourth Wing minus dragons. And, you know, we sort of had the similar magical powers of Fourth Wing. She kind of falls for a general. It was all going nicely. And then the last 20 minutes, everything got turned on its head. All of a sudden, I don't want to give it away because a massive thing happens 20 minutes before the end of the book, and my mind was blown. And then the next book starts, and I was just losing my mind the whole book, completely
That's awesome.
just leveled up in the best way. And yes, I absolutely love Dustbound. I would almost say almost at the level of The Wolf King and the Night Prince. Tiny bit spicier because it's a bit faster paced, I would say, than you know, we've obviously got a slow burn happening with the Wolf King and the Night Prince, but very, very good. Loved it.
Yeah,
Really
that's
good.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's
How
awesome.
about you?
Maybe I'll have to check those out. Nicole has had The Night Prince finished for probably a couple weeks. I just finished it like 2 days ago. I'm exhausted. If you see bags under my eyes, it's because I have not been sleeping, because I have just been staying up listening. But I kind of always have an audiobook going on, because I like, when I'm doing my skincare routine at night, I like to listen to that or whatever. So I started last night the Tempest Blade, the last book
Yes, I
in
just did
Daniel
that as well.
series. Yeah. So I'm listening to that right now. I also finished Emberly Ash, who we have interviewed on this podcast.
Yes.
She wrapped up her kind of first Romantasy series. It has 4 books. I really, really like the finale, but she just also published a brand new book called The Frost Witch, which is in that same world but set in like a prequel time frame, and
Ooh.
I think it is incredible. It is
Yay.
there's like, it's like a witch, and then like there's like this curse on the land, and their gods have said that people have to go through these trials to kind of break the curse, and so people have been trying it, and so this witch decides to try to break the curse. And of course, the bounty hunter Garrick the Red, who is, big and bulky and, just
Oh,
very
no.
handsome, he is also trying to break the curse with her at the same time, and she and him get accidentally like life bonded.
Oh,
um
no.
he's like grumpy, and and then becomes obsessed with her. So anyway, it's really, really good. It's called The Frost Witch. I really liked that. And then honestly, just kind of have been going through Danielle Jensen's backlog, did a lot of that in prep for that interview with her. So those are
Yes.
some of the things that I've been reading.
Yes. How far into the Tempest Blade are you so far?
Not like, maybe like 4 or 5 chapters, not very far.
Yeah.
I'm in the first Aaron chapter right now, which I'm so thrilled that we're getting all the
Yes.
character POVs.
Oh,
That was awesome.
and Sean Masters is in there. Like he
Yeah,
voices Blake, and now I just love him. I love him in
yeah,
everything. I think he's
I
voicing
know.
Paris, and I loved
It's
how
great.
I just read the Tempest Blade, and it was so good. Such an epic wrap up to this whole world. It was really sad to say goodbye to this world, but she's definitely done
Yeah,
it justice, even though there's still a lot of pain and suffering along the way before we get
yeah,
the payoff.
yeah.
But I really appreciate that Danielle Jensen is an absolute powerhouse when it comes to delivering. Like she is professional. Like she hits
Yeah,
her
she has
deadline.
been killing it, man. It's so
Yes.
much is coming out. It's just wild.
So I appreciate that
Oh,
she is delivering.
yeah. You know what else I read? I read Apprentice to the Villain, the 3rd book in that
Yes.
series.
How'd you find it?
maybe we should do an episode on it, but I liked it. I'm a little ready for the payoff of the romance. I don't want to like spoil anything, but I'm a little ready.
I read 3/4 of the first book and I DNF'd it.
Oh, really? Oh, I loved the first book. And then I loved the second book. The second book I like devoured, but the third book took me a while to get through. So
I don't know, maybe it was a bit like YA-ish, not enough romance to kind of
yeah, I liked that like tongue-in-cheek quality
I did like that.
but I can see why that wouldn't work for some people,
I feel
especially like
in comparison, The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy, I felt like had a similar kind of humor, but was a little bit more adult. And I really enjoyed that one. The other book I've read recently that I devoured and I really enjoyed was A Tongue So Sweet and Deadly by Sophia St. Germain. That series was really good as well. Again, my favorite trope of the wrong one before the right one. We have fated mates. We have pain and suffering for the MMC as he's just pining for her in the background while she's falling for some non-magical human prince. And you're like, why? Look who Rowan is right there. He's right there. Just you just got to see him. Like, so loved it. That was really fun too.
Hopefully we just filled up your TBR because that's what we like to do on this podcast is give you way too many books than you have time to read. And so with that, I think let's get into The Wolf King and the Night Prince. Yes. Spoiler-free zone, so you can still be listening if you haven't read them yet, though we do think you should read them immediately. So big picture tropes, Nicole, what are the big picture tropes? Why should people read this series from your perspective?
Because it's like one of the greatest things I've read all year and I'm obsessed with it. That's firstly and foremostly why I should read it. Just take my advice that you need to do it. This has all my favorite tropes in it. The biggest ones being obviously the love triangle, fated mates,
shifters.
Enemies.
So if you're into shifters, wolf shifters, which I go, like I like some shifter books and I don't like others. Like I'm not a huge, I don't like shifters in the way that I like fae. But these shifters are kind of like fae, and I think that's why I liked them so much. They have more fae quality.
It's almost a fae wolf, isn't it?
It's almost like a fae wolf. Yeah, it is. It is. The love triangle is so delicious. You have your classic blonde MMC versus, brunette, dark, shadowy MMC. And we all know how that's going to go. But it's done so well. And again, we don't want to give spoilers, but this is not a regurgitated ACOTAR love triangle, in my opinion. It is pulling inspiration from that, but
it's
doing
so
it
different in its own sense.
Yeah, really unique way, really like what I would consider like a modern way. Like, if you think of like, the classic way that it's done in ACOTAR and then is repeated in many books is like they fall for the wrong love interest first, and that wrong love interest is like really bad. It turns out like we hate them. We hate Tamlin.
Yeah.
What I am really, really loving and appreciating is that not quite that. It's much more
organic.
mature and organic and how it's like approached. So
I think it really, without giving too much away, it plays more into that sometimes the natural progression of the relationship, the natural progression of the character's growth leads them to just go, this isn't the right person for me. And maybe something else is, or someone else is.
Yeah. And you can still love that person in a different kind of way that
while knowing they're not right for you. Yeah. But I think as a summary, firstly, this is a werewolf fantasy romance series. It is primarily werewolf. It really plays a bit like imagining we've got Princess Aurora, who kind of lives in sort of an England style of, the South versus the North. And then she's about to get involved in an arranged marriage to a horrible noble.
And she's a princess.
Yes, yes.
Princess to
And
this, like, Southern English country.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Until she comes across a very powerful alpha, Callum, who is a blonde werewolf. And he then rescues her and steals her away to the north and takes her to the Wolf Kingdom. And she gets to know more about this wild north that she's always been so afraid of. She's always been told that it's very bad. There's this human wolf war that's been going on for generations. And while there, she meets some other very interesting alpha wolves, one being a wolf by the name of Blake, who is really just a very morally grey, resand kind of character.
Morally black.
Yes, yes, yes. And very a lot of court intrigue, and
Yes.
he's very intelligent and cunning and dangerous because he's very smart and always running circles around everyone. And then Aurora has sort of been thrown in there, and she's stirring everything up, bringing this person from the south, this princess, into this world, and then all the romances and fighting and court intrigue that happens from there.
Yeah, yeah, and they're kind of like if there was a love triangle with Cassian and Rhysand, with a bit like a Feyre who's a little bit smarter, I would say. Like, um, there is a part of her that's like, "Oh, I'm a damsel in distress princess," but she really, that's where she starts, and she has to grow from that, and you kind of get to see that, like, for her, so much of her growth is in her intellect and her strategy and her
Yes,
ability to play the court politics, and that sort of kind of comes into play
yeah.
with the attraction to the forbidden love interest
Yes,
that she
yes,
shouldn't be interested in.
exactly. And that's what I loved about, like, I loved all these characters. I actually thought there was a degree of maturity in how these characters were
They
introduced.
are,
We
they're
didn't
very mature.
get the typical she's already powerful and she just does sword play in her spare time even though she's a princess. She's basically just been brought up as a princess. She's actually been very downtrodden. She's just been forced to just her only power was choosing what she wore, how she manipulated the courts. That was where her power was. She wasn't allowed to have any physical power. So she came into this world very powerless, really.
Yeah.
And initially why Callum, I guess, feels a degree of needing to protect her physically, and why he was so attractive for her at the beginning. But a few people have said they don't like her because they felt like she wasn't this strong character. She was quite of a weak sort of damsel in distress. But I challenge that a lot. I feel like, yes, she maybe starts in a place like that, but we actually see that she's a very mentally strong and intelligent character.
Yes.
And I think we see beautiful growth. I love that exploration of her strengths being of the mind.
Yeah, and really an exploration of what I think is a very, like, common and relatable experience for women, which is like coming into who she is, like she gets freedom for the first time and she gets to break out of the confines and the expectations of who she is. And she really goes on a journey to uncover and discover who she is, what she wants, what she's good at, what she, who she wants to be. And I think that it's a really mature kind of wrestling with that, so yeah, just really good. And then, I mean, obviously we wouldn't be like obsessed with it if it didn't just have this delicious kind of slow burn tension, which
Romance.
is Nicole and I's like sweet spot. So there just is the banter and the tension and
Banter.
the way that like, it is just so well done. And
Mhm.
I will say, I probably didn't love the first book as much as Nicole did. I read the first book and thought, "This is okay." Like, I liked it. I was like, "I can see a lot of potential here." That second book, I could not put it down, and
Mhm.
I'm exhausted. I listened to it all in, like, 3 days, staying up till, like, 2, 3 in the morning every single night, like, just listening. Um like,
I
nonstop. I mean,
mm.
my husband was, like, commenting, like, "You have not gotten this giddy about a book in a while," and I was like, "I know," because I was just, like, laying in bed with my headphones in, he's, like, watching baseball, and I'm sitting there being like, "Ah!"
The way that when a book hits my tropes, like when they
Yeah,
hit those sweet spots I want to,
and they
whether
do
it's
them
the
really well.
banter, the fated mates, the fey
Yeah.
magic, whatever it might be, and then I just get so giddy with excitement. Now, for me, when certain characters get introduced, in a way that reminds me of ACOTAR, in a way that reminds me of some of my favorite books. I did get so insanely excited. I see these books as like conjoined twins. I didn't even separate them. All I could say was that it massively leveled up second book. I don't think I even gave myself a breath. So it's hard for me to say, oh, did I enjoy the first book as much as I enjoyed the second book? I think what made the second book level up as well was that obviously I did it with Audible, and they had narration for all three characters. Like, they had their own voices, and that made it so much better, because the first one I feel like the first one we just had Callum and Aurora with voices, and then the next one we have three voices. So that leveled it up too. But yeah, the first one we just get the introduction and the flavor, and yes, we get some romance, which is great, but it's still just that introduction to the world. Very similar to ACOTAR, where, you know, whenever you're trying to recommend it to people and you're kind of having to tell them, well, you're going to have to push through the first 50% of the book because it's not really that good. But trust me, once it gets good, it gets so good. And you know, you're just trying to get them to that second book. A little bit like that. But I actually even
It's
still
not
think,
as slow. I would actually say first book is better
it's
than ACOTAR
really
1.
entertaining. Yeah.
It is really entertaining. It moves very quickly. It does not get bogged down with too much world building. You know, I mean, for me, I like, if I was going to have any critique of the book, I want more world building. But you know, for somebody, if I would consider this like a romance, at least book one, a romance with fantasy elements. They're not. It's really is just kind of getting right into the romance and not spending too much time.
It's very much character based. Very character based.
Yeah, not a lot of world building in book one, which is that makes it easy to get into, right? Because you're not trying to like have that overwhelming, like, what is this and what is that?
And how often do people say that they get really overwhelmed with a fantasy book when they get in there and they're thrown into this complex world, and for the first 15 chapters they're just trying to get their heads around the world, and then by the time they finally get to the romance, sometimes they've checked out. So it's kind of great that for this one you kind of get straight into the romance and the action, and then the world is slowly introduced to you more and more as it goes along.
Yeah, absolutely. Do we know when the third book is coming out?
We have been told it is summer 2026, so we don't have a definite date. I'm hoping that that's like an Australian summer, because that would be January, but no, that's my wishful thinking. But yeah, we're probably looking at, I guess, June, July, August next year.
I hope so. So that cannot get here fast enough.
No way.
Yeah. All right. Anything else in the spoiler-free zone before we get into our gushing?
Just read it. Honestly, if you are here and you like our books, I put this in my 6-star category, and I only save that for my absolute favorites. ACOTAR, Fourth Wing, I honestly think it's up there. As I said earlier, I don't think there's a single person that I've recommended this to that hasn't loved it, particularly people that love Sarah J. Maas, and that it really hits those sweet spots. I really think this is going to be a very, very big and successful series, so get onto it. Get onto it and come back and watch the rest of it. Watch the spoiler zone.
And will probably be something that's like similar to like the Bloodwing Academy series by Briar Bolin, where, you know, maybe the first 2 books don't get a ton of momentum, and then that third book comes out and then suddenly everyone's reading it. So be ahead of the curve, you know.
Did you read them as well? I read them. Did you read them?
I haven't read them yet. They're on my TBR. I know that they're fantastic. I know that everyone loves them and they're obsessed with them. I just have not had a chance.
I think I was kind of getting excited for a particular Why Choose trope to come in, and I don't know if that's actually going to happen, because like I literally messaged it to the author and then she's like, oh, not for this series, but maybe for another series. And I was like, what? I'm like, but you set it up like that. Which sounds really bizarre, but you got to read them to understand what I'm talking about. But I would really like to see a Why Choose romance in there, but we'll see what happens. Maybe she's just tricking me. So
yes. Okay. It is now time for the spoiler zone. So if you have not read the books, stop what you're doing and go read them, because they are good. And I will say, you need to have read both books, because I don't think either of us really remember what happened in book one.
We're going through the whole thing.
Past that. This is a vibes conversation. This is we inhaled these.
You need to have read the entire of the Wolf King and the Night Prince before proceeding from here, because this is your final warning that we will be talking about both books and the ending of both books. So
and we will not be able to help ourselves.
No, we won't.
Okay, where should we start? I'm so excited. Okay, let's start by talking about Callum and Blake, because I Truly. And I think we're similar. Like, I can see your perspective, you can see mine, but we're a little bit different here.
Yeah.
Where I think from the beginning, correct me if I'm wrong, you were just like Team Blake 100% all the way from the very get-go, from the moment that you met him.
I'm
Tell
always
me I'm
gonna
wrong.
fall for the morally black. Like, literally as soon as
Love a
he
villain.
entered the scene, like, she sees him leaning against the wall and he
Oh,
smells,
right. You're right. He was leaning when we first met him.
and
He's
he's
like the
like
darkness
tall
or the
and
shadow.
dark and mysterious and he's the most dangerous alpha in existence. And
And
then they're
nobody knows
like,
anything about him. And
and
like, yeah.
and the first thing she gets is his scent, and she's like, "Oh, he smells like pine and snow,"
Fine and night.
basically. I was like,
I think that was in like the third or fourth chapter, and I texted you, and I was like, a dark-haired alpha who smells like pine and night. Okay,
"Yeah,
know where this is going.
finish it here. We know what's going to happen."
Yeah, yeah. And I will say, normally I do fall for that character, and
Mm,
I often like I'm like, okay, come on, just get to the real love interest. I will tell you, I am genuinely like in love with Callum. And probably
Callum is
one of the
beautiful.
only book blondes I've ever fell in love with.
Mhm,
And when they kind of had their like basically like their breakup moment,
mhm,
not the like really intense breakup moment, but the one where she's like about to go on the journey, this is in book 2,
mhm.
I was like legitimately sad.
Yeah,
Like, I like actively wanted her to be with both of them. And I was like,
yeah.
there was a moment where I was like, I just want this to be who I choose. I just want this to be who I choose. I just love them both. I
I
love them both.
I will say, even though I was Team Blake, I really did love so many of the moments with Callum, particularly in book 1. I thought their initial like connection spy scene in the tent was funny and
Oh,
beautiful. I
amazing.
loved how he
Yeah.
like was so big he couldn't get his clothes off in the tent like in a neat, attractive way. So he like leaves the tent and then comes back. And I just thought the
So
little things
funny.
like that were so funny and cute, and just made him. He was just such a like a Labrador kind of, you know.
Yeah. I was
He
gonna say
loved her
weird
and he
guy.
protected her and he cared about her. It was only really, I mean, really, in probably book 1, you would say that Callum was more or less the better choice until the bond snapped with Blake. But then in book 2, that was when we started to see, I guess, a few cracks in the relationship, which was
Yeah.
basically that he just wanted to protect her. His jealousy was coming out and he wasn't really allowing her to grow and be the independent woman that she sort of wanted to be. He still just sort of, and you could also see an intelligence aspect as well. We could
Yeah.
sort of see
Yeah.
that for Callum, like he just didn't understand the court intrigue. He had no idea about it. And she'd be there saying, which dress should I pick? And he's like, oh, you look bonny in both.
You look beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So then
Yeah.
she picks the white one and then she goes and sees Blake and he's like, you can't wear that. He's like, they're going to eat you alive in that dress. So we kind of quickly see that Blake is at her level from that perspective,
Yeah.
whereas
Yeah.
Callum just doesn't get it.
Yeah. And of course, like in the moment with James, while James is still the king, and James is saying to Blake to kiss her, and Callum is like, do it. And she's like, please don't. Like, of course, I was so angry at Callum in that moment. And
Yeah.
from that moment forward, up until the very kind of last moment between the two of them, I was like, okay, yeah, Callum's got to go. And then it's like he was both bad and got his redemption arc in the same book, which is really interesting and not something that I think has really been done. Like, that to me, that scene where she's about to go off with her brother is such a redemption scene. And he says to her, like, when I look at you, I see a goddess. Like, you are everything to
Mhm.
me. I am
Yeah.
so in love with you, but I cannot have you. Like, and
Yeah.
for her, she's like really angry with him that he won't fight for them. But I think like
We
he
start to
knows, you
Yeah, he
know?
understands the wolf law, and that's how I love how Lauren did this series, because she didn't force it. She didn't make it like they have to have this epic breakup sort of aspect. It was literally just, here's your mate, and in wolf law, you don't be in a relationship with someone else's mate. You just don't. And she's there going, no, I'm going to break it. I'm going to break it. But he's like, you don't understand how this works. Like, it doesn't work like that. And he's devastated. He wants her to be his mate. Or he just wishes that they weren't mates. He would have happily been married to her and been with her forever. but that just wasn't in the cards. And the more that he realized, funnily enough, that scene you spoke of earlier where he did make her kiss Blake, maybe I didn't mind because I wanted her to kiss Blake, but I felt like he was somewhat forced into that situation. Like he couldn't really get out of that. James had put him in a situation where he really had no choice, and I guess it needed to happen for the story to progress where it needed to go. There were truths that needed to come out. He was in denial, I think, until that point. He was trying to deny this truth, and James was trying to show him that you need to see what's happening here. And I think at that point he started to realize, I can't keep my head in the sand any longer.
I think he had given her opportunity after opportunity to show him that she really was going to reject the bond, right? Like he asked her to marry him. I mean, honestly. And she immediately was like, oh, something in me is like, no way. Like, so like, I think it's just so unique that you can just really love and have a lot of empathy for the character that isn't their mate. And I just loved it.
Yeah, and we even understand how she loves Callum. She loves him. And he says at one point that love is not even enough compared to a bond. Like that it does it. And that was really proven through this story, that even though they loved each other, and this is so true of love, who you love, you tend to always have flaws, and there were flaws in their relationship, but they were happy to ignore those flaws or work around them. But there was such a good connection with Blake, such an even the bond that was just gravitating them together the whole second book, which was just delicious. And then just the fact that she's in denial about it the whole time, and she keeps just like going to bite Blake, and I'm just like, oh, and I just want to know.
I know the desire to bite Blake, I'm like so into. I'm
just
like,
the way her body is just naturally just trying to bite him, and then he's like, I want to know what would happen if she did actually bite Blake and draw blood, because he was like, you don't want to do that, and I'm like, why does she not want to do it, Blake? Why? Because I feel like you should do it.
Not want that, because then maybe like she would be his alpha, like.
Maybe, or would it just send him into full like mate zone where he would be like, we've bitten each other and now it's all on?
Oh, kind of like that's kind of like the real way that they accept it. Like he's bitten her and now she has to bite him back.
Well,
like,
kind of. But I think that would send him into a full primal kind of like possessing kind of
like he is at the end of the book, right? Like
I think he would lose control. He would lose control, which she wants. She keeps bugging Callum to lose control. Blake is going to lose control 1,000% next book.
Yeah, I know. It's so interesting that like she's not, I mean, of course, because she's in FMC and she has to grow, but it's like on the one hand she like wants this like primal side of Callum, and he can never give it to her, and at the same time she like doesn't want Blake to do that, and she's like kind of afraid of that part of Blake, and I'm like, oh girl, you're gonna like it, come on, you're gonna love it, like
you're gonna love it,
you're gonna love this. Even like the dream that she sees of him, where like he's kind of like possessing her in like a dark romance type of moment, and she's like, this is how you see me, oh my god, I'm so offended. I'm like, oh girl, you're gonna be all about that.
Exactly. Don't act innocent, we know what's really gonna happen. And I just love that moment. And Blake is like, can I just have you for one night? No one would know. And I can be gentle if you want. And it's like, oh, she doesn't want you to be gentle, Blake. She really doesn't.
She doesn't actually want that. She says she does, but she doesn't. And I just love, there's so many little small moments, and that really make the tension so delicious. Like I was just thinking, like, when I think this is in book 1, he catches her like stealing wolfsbane and to poison some guy whose name I don't even remember because he doesn't matter. Magnus, I think, or something. And he's like, oh, you would have killed him, but fine with me, and then he's like, oh, keep that wolfsbane I gave you on you. And she's like, I took it. And he's like, Yeah, of course you did. Like, there's just so many small little, like, quips and comments between the
I
two of
know,
them.
they're both a little bit game players, and I remember the scene where she's trying to put the wolfsbane in the mashed potato to get to the girl that is in love with Callum and is being really mean to her, and then he tells her that she's actually, like, dairy intolerant, so just put some butter in the potato instead. Yeah. But just the way that Blake will talk about it, and he'll be like, yeah, the amount you put in there, you're going to kill her. Like, that's not going to, sorry, no, it wasn't that. It was which one was it? It was like, she was trying to make, that's right, she did put the wolfbane in, but she was trying to make her, give her a laxative. So,
yeah.
But
and
yeah.
he was like, I mean, if you want to, I'll help you hide the body. Like, whatever, kill her.
He's so not
like,
concerned
really
about
black, and I love it. I love
quips
it.
between them. Even the scene, I just read about this, with the lobsters. Like the lobsters in the second.
Oh my God, that scene was so good. I love that scene.
When he's like, I'm going to be the Lord of Crustaceans, or just crustaceans going around my palace.
That was one of the moments where I, like, most desperately wanted the why choose, because I felt like in that moment, Callum was also himself, right? Like, Callum's over there lying about the soup being good. He's like, it's delicious, because that's how Callum is. And Blake is like, I'm gonna be the Lord of Crustaceans, like, they had this, like, great little, like, found family
trilogy banter.
Like, could we what choose? Could we get Blake and Callum together? Like, he's the gentleness that she needs, and Blake is the, like, cutting edge cutthroat that she needs. But I don't think that's where it's going. But
no, I think
not with the mates.
I think by the end we thought, because Blake, while he's morally black, he's also so distinguished compared to, like, because the other wolves are so primal and they're very animally and obviously kind of quite Scottish, really, whereas we get the real regal aspect from Blake. And at the end, which, okay, I'm going to jump right through to, they've got their mates bond, we're at the very end, and we're there with James. And James is like, oh, yes, he's showing typical signs of someone who is super protective of his mate. We can see from his stern jaw and this and that. But then he just throws out these really humorous quips that obviously while his body's doing that, he still maintains a degree of control of himself. Like, and his full mate spot, even though literally if James goes to touch her, he's going to rip his throat out. Like,
yeah, I know. And what I really like, and I'm excited about for the future books, is we're told kind of at the end of the book that, like, oh, James was crazy in a way I've never seen before. Or not James, sorry, Blake. James says to her, like, Blake has been losing his shit in a way I've never seen, but we didn't actually get to see that yet. Like, because when he gets with her, he's still very, like, in control. And so I'm excited for the moment where he's not in control with her. Like, that's the thing I know.
It reminds me of Rhysand. Like, how with Rhysand, like when we see him with Feyre, he's very sort of in control and that, because we're seeing the best side of him. Everyone else sees the rest of it. And that's kind of what's happening with Blake as well. When he's around Aurora, he's acting very well behaved, but for everyone else, he is like, touch her and die. Like, if you come near her, I'm going to kill you. He's full wolf mode. But then around her, he's dignified and he's giving her a space and independence, and he's not throwing it on her too quickly. But let's talk about the ending. I really just need to process through the ending, then we can go back. But I've hit that point. Let's talk about what transpires in the last 100 pages. So when she is captured and she is taken to, like, the bad guys, to, like, the Night Prince priests or whatever they were, they're about to release, like, the monster, I'll call it, that's gonna, like, kill everyone. And James and that and his mate, we end up finding out that the only other wolf that's had a mate is James. And then we kind of meet his potential mate who has somewhat rejected the bond, like, and we kind of see a bit of their banter. They're both captured together, and we see that there's a lot of banter between those two.
And that even if she rejected the bond, there's clearly still this interesting, strong connection between them. So like, there is no world, I think, where Aurora would have ever been able to reject the bond. Like, that's the... I don't think there's choice in this world.
No, it seems like it's the only person that could have broken it was Aurora because of her power. But in that moment where she could have, she doesn't. But let's talk about that whole sequence, because what starts is Blake is tied up, like Callum basically has arrested him. He's tied up back home, and she is now being captured, and they're talking via dreams. And what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts when you were reading this moment?
I love the dream conversations and the dream hanging out. I would have actually been really into a world where they were kind of sneaking around in their
Oh
dreams.
my
While she was
God.
with
I
Callum.
I
Like, I
would
would
have
have been kind of into that, I think.
feel like there was a bit of frustration for me that they didn't get down to something in that dream where he's asking for it. Like, I know why she's holding out for it, but
even just like a really passionate kiss, I would have been like, okay, finally.
yeah.
But yeah, I loved that they were talking in their dreams. And what I really want to know, because we don't know this yet, is, and this is getting a little bit into theories, but is their connection via dreams just because they're mates, right? Is that something that James and Claire can do? Or is the connection via dreams because they have some even more significant connection? Like, is it a result of her being the heart of the moon, the descendant of the moon, and him being somehow tied to
The Night
the
Prince.
Night Prince? And this is where my theory is coming in a little bit.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, like, she is a descendant of the moon, right? Like, that's kind of what it is. And in many ways is kind of like reflecting the reincarnation of the moon, which is the ability to let wolves shift whenever they want. The moon was in love with someone. The moon had a love story with the original alpha wolf. And so there's a part of me that is wondering if actually Blake is somehow descended from that original alpha wolf, but has just been claimed by Night. And that is like Night's way of trying to get to stop history repeating itself or something like that. Or alternatively, perhaps what we know about the lore is incorrect. And perhaps actually the moon and Night have a connection. And it's this like kind of intense, like yin and yang, kind of constantly like in love, but also in hate relationship. And that is now once again kind of replaying itself out. You know, of course, I bring everything back to Bryson Azrael. And you know,
because it's such a typical mythology and lore that is explored in so many of these books, and it is explored through this. I think there's something very strong there. I like the idea of, I always love a light and dark, of a good and bad, the moon and the night, and I think both those things tie in really well to werewolves and the wolves in general. So I think that would tie in really nicely to the story. I think you're definitely onto something. I don't feel like the dreams is a typical connection of mates.
I don't think it's
are very rare. We would only know by finding out more about James and his mate to find out if they have something similar to that. But current suggestions would be that they don't. Whereas, there's obviously what?
I'm so sorry. Okay, so what if Night, the original alpha wolf, and the moon were the original love triangle? And Callum, like, so maybe the moon actually fell in love with the original alpha wolf, but then the reason Night stole her is because like she was his mate or whatever. And we're seeing that like repeat itself with Callum and Aurora and Blake. I didn't even think of that. That makes so much more sense to me. That's gotta be what it is, right? And that's like maybe like what Blake is gonna have to be fighting is this like urge to sort of like claim her and take her and imprison her, right? Like Night did to the moon. And he has to kind of figure out how to like not do that.
We definitely know he's got these really primal urges to protect her, that typical mate alpha wolf urges that he is currently trying to control very much, which he's not going to control in the bedroom for sure. They're all going to come out the bedroom. But
and it kind of like reminds me, and I know that this is based off of like Celtic mythology, so I have not like looked into this, so I don't know kind of what the original lore is here, but it has this almost like Hades and Persephone's vibe with the addition of like a love triangle. And so it's like we've been told that Night has the moon imprisoned, that he imprisoned her, but maybe that's not what it is, right? Maybe the story has gotten corrupted over time, and it's actually like they're lovers, but like he's protecting her in the prison of
Yeah.
his prison, um and like she only gets to come out sometimes because it's like the 80s Persephone thing. I don't know.
Yes.
There's definitely something going on there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. No, I definitely the mythology is definitely there, and I think it's just how much it's playing into it. But I definitely think you're onto something. Definitely, Callum is your typical just wolf alpha male. He
Right.
really represents almost a day kind of. Well, obviously werewolves are nighttime, but he's the good guy. He's the typical hero. And then we've got Blake, which is really the perfect night kind of aspect, and then she is the moon. So I feel like night and moon are meant to be together though. Like
They
that's
are, exactly. And that's
yeah,
where like I think that
and that's
maybe
where
the
it's kind of all comes
lore
together. Yes.
that we've been taught with that has been passed down in the generations is wrong, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah. And I love that Aurora's power, like her mum confirms, it's been getting stronger with every generation. So it's been getting stronger and stronger, and her mother sort of knew that potentially her daughter would be strong enough to fully have this heart of the moon power, which we're now seeing come into force. And I think we're only going to see that grow further and become more. It's going to be really exciting to see what that is. But okay, let's go back to finally, like, she's been captured, all hope is lost. Blake is meant to be captured, like, he's meant to be, like, tied up. But I think someone says, right, I can't remember if it's James or someone says, oh no, he's going to get to you. There's no way he's not going to get to you.
Yes, yeah, he'll find you. Because like, so she's in the prison with James, and James says, does he know where you are? And she says, Callum, no, like he doesn't know that I've been taken. And he, like, James looks at her and doesn't even say Blake. He just looks at her, and she is like, oh, he means Blake. And she goes, yeah, I think he does. And then he goes, I'll try to buy you time. And like implying like all you need is time, because he's for sure coming for you. Like there's no doubt about it.
And then he, like, I feel like he comes in full guns blazing. Like, it reminds me of like that Lord of the Rings moment with, I can't remember who the actor, like, where he opens the doors and he just comes on it. It felt like that, like he just unleashes. It's like, and then he says what I think is your favorite line of "Stay away from my mate."
Get your hands off my mate. Yeah,
I'm
obsessed. I just like I like touch her and die is like my favorite. I don't know why.
And
if my
we've
husband
had
ever displayed that level of possessiveness, I would divorce him immediately. But in a book, love it.
100%. And we've had to wait so long for this moment. Like, they have slow burned us through this whole 2 books. Like, they've never called it out. They've never called out that they're mates, even though they've been so connected, to finally hit that point. And it's such a pivotal moment to just say it, because it's so primal, and just at that point, all he is primal protection mode. Yeah. Oh, loved it.
I know. And then of course things go badly, and like he's not able to save her, and he is like holding her and cradling her because she's been whipped and her back is flayed, which I just like, I love that, the gentleness versus the touch her and die, kind of alpha mode, like, juxtaposed. But then he says, like, and this is where I just love it, because like she starts really as like this damsel in distress, right? Like Callum is rescuing her, and he says, the only one who can save us is you. And I love that kind of metaphorical growth between she's the damsel in distress, and now he's not actually able to rescue her. He isn't able to, and he says, the only one who can rescue us is you. The only one who can save us is you. And I had been suspecting that she was kind of connected to the Heart of the Moon. I was thinking it was something similar to like the horn on Bryce, where like her mom somehow put it in her or something like that. It didn't really click to me that it would be like a descendant thing. And then for her to kind of go through this like dream sequence of realizing who she is, I just loved that.
Yes, I have to admit that I didn't clue on to that it could officially be her. I was the same thing. I thought she was connected to it in some way, but I did also still believe it was this physical thing, was going to be a physical stone or something, that it wasn't actually just a person and her, until she has the dream sequence. But I do love, there is such a emotional factor when Blake is talking to her and her back is flayed. She's basically dying. They're all going to die. And he says, you and we don't, I can't remember what the exact phrase was, but he basically says, we're not like that. We unleash. And he just says this unleash, and he just gives her permission to just let go. And she does in the best way. And then she finally comes into her power, this power that she's been suppressing all this time, her whole life. And now is the moment that she lets it all go. And that he's that factor, you know, as we've often talked about with these books, and that they need that mentor, that person that allows them to grow. And that's Blake. Callum doesn't do that. Callum doesn't allow her to grow. He takes her away and he protects her in that, but he's still keeping her in a degree of like, I want you to just be a princess, and I want you to be my princess, and I'm going to love you a lot, but I just want you like this. Whereas with Blake, he's just letting her grow to her whatever she's going to be.
Well, and like, one of my probably my favorite line of the entire both books is when they've had their kind of like, they've had this like kind of emotional vulnerability with one another, and like he tells her about like the well and his like past, and she kind of talks about her own religious trauma and being beaten by the priests or whatever, and you know, she says something like, I don't want to be friends with you or something. And he says, remember, we're not, we're enemies. And I want you to come at me with everything you have. I want you to become, you know, your best, most truest self, so that when the time comes, you give me all you got. And like, I can't remember the exact specific line, but it was just so good and so delicious, and like just filled with so much like
emotion,
double meaning and emotion and innuendo. And like, that to me was like, that moment is when I was like, oh shit, this book is good.
That's it. I think I even like, I've got this like plot analysis that I found online, and it's amazing. And you realize the levels, say the mythology, there's the relationships, there's the banter, there's the emotional aspects, the deeper meanings behind it. There are so many layers to this story that you can just sort of enjoy it as just the fantasy romance that it is, or you can see the deeper levels and why we suddenly have this intense connection to these characters because of the journey that all of them are going on, particularly Aurora, but all of them. And the lines that are said at just the perfect moment, the timing of the lines being delivered really just brings it home.
That's what makes it so much next level, is like the pacing, the timing is perfect with some of this stuff. So go back and kind of just walking through the end here. We can't like get ourselves through it because we just like everything. When things
like, oh my god, let's break this
down. So she unleashes. She destroys that like scary night creature that had escaped. And you know, they think they've won. And then Alexander basically comes back to life. Which we find out.
It's all a little blurry around there. A lot of action is happening all at once. Yeah,
because a lot is happening. And, you know, you're kind of going back and forth between her being in these like weird dream sequences and then like back to the present or whatever. And then he throws a knife and it hits Blake, and Blake is basically dying. And this scene is so awesome because, you know, ultimately, like, she leaves Callum and she says, like, I am going to break the bond. And then she gets the chance to do it. Not even, I mean, probably just like a couple days later. And she can't. And she can't break it. And not only does she not break it, she saves him. And in doing so, it seems like strengthens the bond.
She actually reinforces it because we go back and we've almost go back to this childhood memory for him of being in the well, and it's a really traumatic memory, and it's why he has such a fear of storms. And she sees him there, and it's funny that, see, when she's with Callum, she believes that she has this ability to break the bond, but when she's with Blake, there is just no way she can bring her soul to actually do that. To the point that and he's telling her break it, like he's being so selfless in this moment. He knows he's a bad guy. He knows that even though he's her mate, I don't think he feels deserving of it. And he feels like that she'd probably be better off without him. Also, at this point, he knows that he's the Night Prince and things. So he's telling her to break it, but she doesn't. She actually reinforces it and makes it stronger so that she can rescue him.
what we don't, as readers, we don't even actually realize how significant that moment is when it's happening. It's not till we get to the very, very end that we realize, because he says to her, you know, when I have my second death, and we'll talk about him being the Night Prince and him being dead in a minute, but when I have my second death, I am under no illusions that I will be spending an eternity with the night, with night, basically.
Mm.
And so in that moment where he's dying and she says, break the bond, he is essentially saying, send me to eternal suffering.
Mm. Yes.
Send me to go and have to be, you know, the prisoner of night for the rest of my days, and have the most pain and the most loneliness and the worst experience I have ever possibly had. And I only had it for a month. I'm willing to have that for eternity so that you don't have to be tied to me in this way.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
I like, you don't realize how significant that is until, you know, maybe 20, 30 chapters, pages,
Yeah.
not chapters later.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh my God, oh my God, it's incredible. Um,
Yes, and then we obviously find out later on that not only has she solidified that bond in a physical sort of way, but it's also made the bond they have to each other so much stronger. It's,
Stronger.
you know, it's actually like she basically wakes up, and apart from that, he's gone full alpha mate mode. She feels a much stronger connection, and she says, I don't think I could break this now, where before it was breakable, now it's not breakable. So
Mhm.
very not, if you're a team Callum, it's not looking promising for you from here onwards, because
No, I don't think so.
it's very strongly now towards their mates. They've accepted this bond, more or less, give or minus, more biting, drawing blood, and all that sort of thing,
Well, she's now
consummating
had the
the
active
bond.
opportunity to accept it, right? That in that moment, that is her actively saying, "This is what I choose. I will not break it." Because she didn't even really have to do that much to break it. She's really just kind of letting him go in that moment, and she chooses to save his life instead. And so, I think it was really important, actually, that she had that, because she's been such a victim of her own circumstances, right? And you know, being angry at Blake that, like, you forced this on me, like, you know, to save my life, you made me choose this, and I didn't know what it was. But now she doesn't have that excuse, right? She
Exactly.
chose to save him and chose to keep the bond and to
Yes.
accept the bond.
Yes.
So
Let's
I thought that
uh,
was good.
and let's make sure we come back to talking about the bond as its own subject before we finish today, because I really do want to talk about the whole bond coming into existence in the
Yeah.
first place. But let's finish up talking about the ending, because I thought we had enough drama already. We already had the drama of them being, I feel like saying, surviving the Crystallos. Like, that's what I felt like that night
Yeah, kind of.
monster was. I was like, to me, that's what it was. So they managed to survive that. They're alive. Their bond is stronger than ever. And then we're like, last chapter, and we have another dream sequence, another memory of Blake's. And this time we see him as the Night Prince, as the human body of, so we've got, like, obviously this night god who is really bad, and he is
Or
the,
so we think.
yeah, we
I'm
exactly,
not
we don't
convinced.
officially, apart from the fact that it has monsters and things, it's generally considered bad, and it wants to come back to the world, and it's now
Mhm.
brought him back to life. And then she has to answer that question, and he's like, you've asked the wrong question about him being imprisoned in the South. And she said, and yeah, and then she finally asks, how did you escape? And he says, I didn't. And that was heartbreaking. It was like, it didn't even occur to me to think, I just escaped. That all of them came together and they finally got released or whatever. I didn't think that they died. I was like, what do you mean he's dead? Like, what does that mean? Is he
I
breathing?
know.
Is his heart beating? Like, what does this mean? I'm pretty sure he's warm blooded. I was just, my brain was exploding at this point. I'm like, what does this mean that he's dead? Like, and he's like, how alive is he? Like, he's been,
Well, but also, when she is in her fever, which is what they call it in quotes, that is essentially when the heart of the moon part of her is kind of taking over, right?
mm,
And she gets really hot. She overheats. That's like the big thing.
mm,
And there's several moments where he is near her or touching her, and she mentions like a coolness, settling over her. And so I actually think, even though he, there's going to be something there with like, he helps temper her, cool her down. It's almost like she's a stone that's overheating,
Yes.
as the heart of the moon, and like him kind of being this cool, almost like vampire like, I
Yes.
think that there's going to be something there, right? And that, like, that's very symbolic. So I really like that. But um I suspected that he was connected tonight. I
Mm.
just felt like there's no chance he's not. Like, he knows so much. He was like, "Oh, let's go into the temple of night." He was kind of scoffing at Alexander for not being a true follower of night. So I suspected that he was connected tonight. I will say, like, the whole world building of the Night Prince to me was underdone. I
Yeah.
wish there had been a little bit more, and I feel like had we just gotten a few more kind of scenes of people talking about the Night Prince, talking about the risk, I would have liked that a little bit more. It would have just kind of solidified things. It just, that part felt a little underdeveloped to me, but I did not expect that, like, he was going to have died and then be reawoken. And like, and not only do we find out that he's the Night Prince, we find out that, like, he has struck a deal to find the heart of the moon and to
Yes,
find her.
yes, yes. But at the same time, he tells her to trust him because, well, we get two indications. One is that Blake has been playing the night god this whole time, like that he's always been
Mhm.
manipulating the situations to benefit him rather than the night god. That he's, I think, trying to get out of this
I think so.
unbreakable, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, this bargain that he has with this god. Um, we kind of, luckily we quickly find out that he's not this true follower like Alexander, who is trying to do the god's work. He's actually trying to get around it. um and yeah, that's really probably one of the big factors that we have to believe that, she can trust him. But that moment at the end where he's telling her, trust me, but then you're also thinking he's also your biggest enemy. Like, can you trust him? And we've often been
Yeah.
told not to trust Blake, but we're trusting in the bond. We're trusting in the fact that the bond wouldn't exist if he didn't have her best interest at heart. And now he has such an insane desire to protect her. I would love to know what Blake's intention with the Heartstone was going to be before she became his
He
mate,
found out that it was her.
because
Yeah.
he obviously was thinking, I was going to get this and use it against him, or use it to get out of this bond, but now it's messed up all his plans, so he's had to create new plans because now it's something that he cannot let go of. And that might be very intentional. It might be coming back to, whatever gods or whatever are at play, as you said, with the mythology, and that perhaps that's why they do have this connection, because now he will be her ultimate protector against the night compared to
Yeah.
before he would have used it.
Well, and the moon is powerful, right? There's so, like, perhaps in the same, like, way that he's protecting her, perhaps she's the only thing that can break his kind of bargain with
Mm.
night.
Yes.
Maybe she's able, because the moon on his way out of the prison says to him, like, my heart will be your salvation. And so there's something about her, about Aurora, that is his salvation, that's going to save him,
Mhm.
whatever that
Yes.
means. We don't know what that means. So I love that. And the one thing that I really, really liked, in that last scene is, he's sort of like kind of trying to overpower her, right? To be
Mhm.
more like an alpha to her. And he uses, the alpha voice. I can't remember what it's called. And she knows that she can resist it, and we have seen her resist it. And in that moment, she's sort of saying to herself, I could resist this, but he's giving me an out to
Yeah.
pretend to myself that I don't have a choice but to listen to him, and I don't have a choice but to, like, trust him.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of book 3 will probably be her coming, like, reckoning with, he is morally gray, he is morally black, and I maybe am a little bit too.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
You know, she's trying to
Her
kind of
exploring her
use
own levels and where she wants to
her
be.
own levels of that. Yeah. And then, and of course, there's going to be a connection between that and the bedroom.
Yeah.
You
Of
know, because
course.
we've seen
Naturally.
her be so
Naturally.
prudish and be so, you know, while desiring a little bit of that unleashing, still being a little bit afraid of it too. And I think that's going to
Mhm.
be, those two kind of journeys will be parallel for her.
Yes. All right, let's go right back to first book, Wolf King, and the introduction of Blake and some of those epic scenes, and I guess the beginning of their bond. But firstly, the scene where he's trying not to turn. It is the full moon, and she goes into his room and realizes that he's trying not to turn because he's the only other one that's a half wolf. All the others are full blown wolves. It seems almost like it's not painful for them to switch, whereas for Blake it is. It is a
It
more
is a little painful.
challenging
Yeah.
transition, and he doesn't like it, and he's trying not to. And then he turns around because she like riles him up. Obviously, there's already that connection a little bit
Yeah.
between them, even though nothing's been explored yet. And he just goes, "Fuck it, run." And I was
Yeah.
like, ah, that was so good, so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Like, and at
Well,
this
and then
stage,
like,
you
go
go.
ahead. Go ahead. Oh, I
I
was
was
just saying, like, I love too that like there's this like kind of mutual throughout both books, this like mutual back and forth of like hunt, you know, this like command. And they both have that command about each other.
yeah.
Like he has that command to like hunt her and make her run. And then later on, like she has a similar like command inside of her to hunt him,
Mm,
and like to bite him. And so I just that it's so
primal.
interesting, so primal.
Mhm,
Yeah, I love it.
mhm.
I love that scene. And then, you know, Callum and him kind of fight, and Callum Blake kind of wins, you know, like Callum
Yeah,
kind of gets Blake to leave, but then like
he just goes to
doesn't
sleep on her.
really, you know, and tells her in the morning that like Blake protected you all night long.
I
Like
know.
he didn't leave.
I I think when this scene first happened, at this stage you don't know yet if he's a villain or not. Like obviously
Yeah.
we've been introduced to him. He smells like pine and snow, but my emotions are all confused at this stage. I don't know where the author is taking it. So when this scene first happened, I was like, "Holy shit, he's bad! Oh my god, he's chasing her now!" Like I sort of didn't. It was later on that we find out that he was actually protecting her because he starts just like fully turning wolf and then chasing her, and it's pretty scary. And he's like taking her through the maze, and then he like seems like he's going to attack her, but then he just licks her and stuff. And then we find out that he actually just covered her with his scent and like drove her away from all the other wolves, like in order to keep her safe. And so then we've just gone from this really morally black character that we thought was being really bad to realizing that he actually did something
It's
helpful
really good.
and good
Yeah.
in his own fucked up kind of way, basically.
Yeah. I know we're like I'm jumping around so bad, but I can't help myself.
Can't help it. Can't help it. No,
So
not
then in book
apologizing.
2, here's what I want to know. And this was like this scene is still kind of unclear to me. So the night that it's the first full moon after she's like transitioned, and so we think that she's gonna like turn or whatever. And
Yeah.
Callum does this very sweet like you know, candles in the woods or whatever, and then you know that doesn't go well, and she's like in pain, and so he takes her to
Blake.
Blake and is like, help me, you know, and they're like fighting, and then she doesn't shift, but the two of them shift and they fight, and then she just kind of like gets knocked out, I guess, and she wakes up and she is naked and Blake is naked and she's like laying on top of him. And here's what I don't understand, because I can understand why Blake is naked and why Callum is naked because they both shifted. She was still in her clothes before she passed out.
Oh,
And
I
she didn't
can't
shift.
remember the ins and outs of the scene. Maybe they had to strip it off her when they were trying out. But I know that I think
I
when
don't
she gets
think
in there,
so.
what Callum doesn't anticipate, I think, in that moment is when they get there, I think she pounces on Blake. Like, I think
Yeah,
she like
she does.
pounces on him and almost attaches herself to him. And he's like, okay, get her off me. Like, she's attached to me. Like, you know,
Yeah.
and
But
then
then
they start.
she herself says she doesn't really know what happened. I'm like,
Yeah.
did they hook up? Like, and we don't know, and like we're gonna get a memory of
I
that? Like,
definitely
what?
feel like there was
Why is she
definitely
naked?
some hot and heavy going on. There was at least body to body contact for sure because she really
She is
attacked him.
laying on top of Blake, and they are both naked.
Yeah. And I
I need
think
to
at
go
some
reread that.
stage Blake is like, "Can you please get her off me?" Like, you know, because she's attached to me right now. And that was one of the things that was
That's
so
where
fun.
it ends. Like, it ends like they're fighting as wolves. She's just kind of sitting there being like, I don't know what's happening. I didn't shift. And then it like fades to black. And then she wakes up. She is asleep. Blake is asleep. They're naked on top, like with one another, asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And Callum is also asleep. And she's the first one who wakes up.
Yeah.
And it's like none of them really remember the night. So I don't know. I feel
You're like hoping
another
that there was
moment where I
some
was
white
like,
shoes in there. You
I
were
don't
just
know why
like,
shoes. Like, did they all just have like a little wolf orgy and like they don't remember it? I don't know.
who knows? That's Wolf's business. But yeah, I'm sure that we will be privy though if something significant happened. I think they did. I think they found a way to knock her out or something, if I recall. Like they did something to her to kind of get her to kind of settle down and go to sleep. But basically, she was very attached to Blake. And poor old Callum is just there in the distance trying to be the third wheel that's staying connected. But all right, let's now travel back to when Blake, I guess, actually forges this initial bond with Aurora. So yet again, she's dying. She's dying, right? At this part in the book.
She's been bitten by James and she is dying.
Yeah. Yeah. And he says, wait, I've got this like magical way that I've read about that I could maybe bring her
I
back.
can give her my life force. Yeah,
and then Callum's like, oh, do you want to show me how to do it? And he's like, oh, it'll take too long for you to learn. I'm going to have to do it this time.
Yeah. Which is just so funny.
So
perfect.
Yep. And basically he actually knows that there is this bond between them. He already has sussed out that they are potentially mates, and he uses that to bring her back to life because he has seen from his time of torture that mates can bring each other back from the dead. So he tries to do that, and we find out later on that he was hoping that he might be able to bring her back to a point, but then kind of pull out of it and not get her pregnant. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. He was just hoping he could pull back and not have that connection.
And
that didn't work.
This is another thing that's interesting to me. So we're told that Claire rejected the mate bond with James.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we're also told, oh, never mind. That's a different mate pair. Yeah, I was thinking he was seeing James and Claire save each other, but he didn't. It's two other mates saving each other.
Yeah. There was another, there was a tortured mate pair down in the south that I think that the evil people did all these experiments on, and that's where he learnt about the mates and what they could do for each other. James and that potentially denied the bond, but then we don't know if they actually did deny it, whether it's even deniable. There's a very good chance that actually the bond is there and it's not able to not be accepted. But she's just gone, I'm not being with you. I'm being here in my own, my own kingdom. Sure. And now that they're back together, like, they've definitely got to pull towards each other. We can see, even though she's trying to deny it, there's still this unbreakable pull that keeps bringing them back.
Aurora does say at some point, though, I remember, like, she says to him later, like, when she's kind of talking to him about the bond and she's really angry, that she's like, I remember when I was dying, you sort of like urged me to accept you, like urged me to accept your life force or something like that. That was me accepting the bond, wasn't it? And he sort of admits, like, yeah, it was. So there is something about acceptance that somehow she did in that kind of
that's right
moment.
She held on to it, like he was trying to pull away and she gripped onto it almost like a rope. She grabbed onto it. And he said, I never could have expected this to happen. I never could have anticipated the events that occurred that led to us having this bond. I think he felt quite guilty that he didn't intend on having that bond with her. He was, even though he kind of knew that she was potentially his mate, he was never going to explore it, probably because he knew about his history and all the night prints and all that. But he had to do it because she was dying, but then didn't anticipate that she'd grab onto it and solidify it and actually accept it in that moment.
Well, and he's saying, like, how could I have predicted that, like, James was going to bite you and that was going to lead you to have this near-death experience, and that the only, like, I couldn't have orchestrated all of that, and I think that's very fair. And I actually think we're going to find out that he's very tortured by what he did, because that's the same thing that happened to him with Night, right? Like, he kind of got forced to make a decision where there really was no decision, like to make the bargain in order to live, after having been tortured for so long.
Yeah.
So I think Blake's going to be pretty actually
He's
guilty and upset by it.
he's very much as he's very manipulative, and he does seem to have a way of things working out the way he needs them to work out. He's tried to always give her the freedom to make her own independent choices. In saying that, I absolutely love it when he bites her and makes her part of his clan, because he's trying not to. And basically, they've realized that James is going to be able to take her into his clan and she'd have to be with James, which would be a very bad outcome. And Callum's trying to offer a choice at this stage. He's like, would you like, I could. Did he even want to bite her? I don't even think he wanted to bite her, but she didn't want to be bitten. She was like, I don't want to be part of anyone's clan. I want to be an independent woman. And then they're at this precipice moment where she has to do with someone, and Blake's just like, oh, for God's sake. He's like, I'm sorry about this, darling. And he does it in such a nonchalant way, and it's just perfection. And then he does this little this little spiel afterwards where he's like, I now declare you part of my clan for all the people to see, and blah 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 blah. And it's just basically it's just fanfare for him. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I know. It's so great. Well, and it turns out like to not really matter, because she can resist him. Like he can't actually control her, which I think is, she can resist that. I want to talk about the bond specifically. Like, what is it that's happening here? Because, they're in each other's dreams on the one hand.
Yeah.
They're also seeing memories as opposed to just dreams. Like, I think that scene with Night is not necessarily a dream, it's a memory.
No, it's a memory. Mm-hmm.
And then he also says that he has seen her wolf form.
Yes.
He tells her that he has seen what she looks like as a wolf. Now, we don't know when or how that happened, but I am like, did he see her wolf form when he was saving her life? Has he seen it like in some kind of future vision of her? Like, where did that happen? Because I just feel like there's so much like, what's happening there?
I'm predicting it's a dream sequence. I think what's interesting is that she has seen him in younger, as a child, and that, or at least in those pivotal scenes, she saw that. I don't think he's seen her younger. He's only seen her sort of from their relationship onwards. He's kind of seen the future. He's seen, the white wolf that she's going to be, which is going to be so perfect because he's the black wolf and she's the white wolf. That was another moment that I was like, oh, he's a black wolf. Love that. But yeah, he has definitely, he has seen that. And I think once that mate's bond was somewhat accepted, it's like suddenly it was open season, but she hasn't seen it. So it's not just like he's tapped into her mind, because obviously there have been the dreams where they've come together and they have the same dream at the same time, and they're both watching those dreams at the same time.
Right. And whereas when they're wandering Knight's prison and seeing that a prisoner escaped and they find the hole in the prison, that's also not a dream or a past, right? That's not a dream, that's not a memory. There's some kind of like they're being transported somewhere, because that prisoner escaping is like a live event. Like, that's not something that happened previously to Blake. So there's a lot of like world walking or like realm walking happening a little bit when the two of them are together. And I just kind of wonder, like, is that being driven primarily because she's the heart of the moon? Is that being driven because it's this super special connection? Like, what?
Well, I think and hopefully these are questions we're going to have answered more in the next book. But I guess a pivotal thing that comes out is probably from James, saying that he will be able to find you. He will find you. So he knows that there is some kind of connection that he will have to know where his mate is. Now, we feel like Blake figures it out because he does see her in a dream, and but it's basically like where she actually is right now, and he sees the trees and stuff, and then he knows where she is. He's able to pick out from where she is, like her location. But is that the only thing that pulls him to her, or is there more of a tether? Is there something physical to their bond that also allows him to smell, whatever it might be, to help him find her as well? But whether that does give away a little bit of the fact that all mates can do this dream connection thing where they can kind of find the other from dreams.
I really don't think so. I really think that I really think it's unique to them. I think there's probably it's a both, right? I think there is probably some kind of physical thing where he can track her in the physical world by this
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
And I think they have this like super special ability to kind of find each other on any kind of realm or plane of reality, whether that's a
Yes.
dream,
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
memory,
exactly.
a
Theirs is gonna
picture,
be so
the
much bigger
realm of the
than
gods.
anyone else's.
Yeah. Yeah.
All we have evidence of at this point in time is that mates can bring the other back from the dead, like they can bring each other back from the precipice of death, and that they can find each other. But we don't really know much more than that as just what typical mates do. And that's what we still need to find out more about, because we really only, because it's such a rare thing to occur. So she wasn't able to find much information on it, and it had sort of been somewhat stolen so that she couldn't find it because Blake had
Yeah.
kept certain parts of it hidden. And it will be from her learning more from James, which thank God now her and James are on a good they're happy now. Like now that she's come out as the heart of the moon, like all the wolves suddenly love her. They've gone from not liking her to all bowing to her basically and considering her a god and their queen. So that's going to be really exciting to see where that
Yeah.
goes as well, and the shift there.
Yeah. Well, but I also like love that Blake is like, you can either let me bite you and be in my clan so that I can order you not to tell anyone about her, or you can die. Those are your options. Like, I am not allowing you to spread this news because the whole world will use Aurora if they know about her and what she is. And I just will not allow that. I will not accept that for her.
I love
Love
Blake.
it.
I love Blake
I know.
so much. I think he
I
might
know.
nearly be my number one MMC now. Like him
He's
and
so
Slade are
cute,
both up
so
there.
funny. He's really like he has those Rhysand vibes. Well, I think he's a lot funnier than Rhysand.
I was gonna
He's
say
very
Rhysand's kind of
funny.
serious.
Really, yeah.
It's
Blake
like
has
Blake's
a
funny.
humor to
Yeah.
him.
He's got a really dark, dry sort of sense of humor, and I love
Yeah,
it.
I
Absolutely.
love it too. I
But he's
love it
also,
too.
it's like he's getting all the pieces of my favorite MMCs all together, because normally you get the dark and brooding, but you don't get the funny. Like they don't normally
Right.
go together. And the way that they've brought that together into Blake
With
is,
the intellect, with the kind of darkness and the shadows and yeah, it's so
I
great.
have to admit, I'm surprised that you were somewhat Team Callum, because you've never been really, you've always been a Rhysand girly, not
I
a
know, and
a
it was never
Casimir.
that I didn't want her to be with Blake. I was like, I just equally wanted Blake and Callum. I wanted them to both get her, and it was like so hard to deal with.
No.
Yeah. Well, any other final thoughts or
Well,
topics for us?
what would you say the spice rating was of this book?
I feel like book one was actually a little bit spicier than book two.
I agree.
We maybe get more spice scenes in book two, but they're really quick and they're not very descriptive or detailed. I think partially because we don't want to see her with Callum anymore by book two.
our brain shutting down going, I don't want this spice
I
scene.
know, and it was like kind of disappointing because we did finally get that like primal moment between her and Callum that she was craving, and I was kind of like, dude, I'm not interested in this. So like I just was like, I just wanted to be with Blake. So for me, I would think really like one or two max, like not super spicy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hope that it gets really spicy in the next couple books.
I agree. The next book better pay off. I actually felt really bad because one of the girls I recommended to, she's a real dark romance girly, so she needs her spice. If the spice is not there, I'm like, it's got spice, but I'm also thinking, but it's coming. It's coming. Like, and she was
But
like,
it's going to be so much better because you had to wait for it. Like that's how I always feel.
yeah.
So I really can't wait. I can't wait.
I know. It's like, yeah, I agree. I feel like the first book had nice spice. It was maybe 1 to 2 chili pepper sort of rating. Nice spice. Great intro. Because at that stage, we really like Callum. We do possibly get more spice scenes in the second book. Lots of slow burn, heated innuendo of spice that's coming with Blake.
Yes.
And then, yes, we do get some spice with Callum, but it's not very good spice, particularly because the whole time he keeps being like, she's like, unleash and ravage me. And he's like, no, I'm going to cherish you and tenderly love you and tease you. And it's just like, this is not what I want. Like, and I know where you're going.
Anyone to be cherished. Ravage her.
Not in the bedroom. Not in the bedroom. Outside the bedroom
No
is fine. In the
terrorism
bedroom,
here.
animal side, please.
Yes, absolutely,
So yeah,
absolutely.
but we've got that excitement. Look, my probably one thing I agree with you that I feel like I would have liked a dream sequence, hot and heavy scene. Maybe not full blown spice, but something on the way there would have
Yeah,
just given us that teaser, that taster before we hit the spice in book 3. Because I
yeah,
think that was the one thing you just came away. And that's one of the reasons we're dying for book 3 because we got nothing. We got no
yeah.
spice. And not only that, at the end, she refers to him as a friend. What did you
I know.
what did you think of that? And did Blake get disappointed when he heard her say friend? Like, I can't tell
So
whether it was a good thing or a bad thing.
like, I actually liked that moment. I thought it was tender and sweet. I thought it was really vulnerable because, because he asks her, like, why didn't you break the bond? And she says, at the end of the day, you're my friend. And while, of course, we would love for her to be like, because I'm obsessed with you and I love you and I want you to ravish me. Um, I think that I actually think that perhaps for Blake, that was even more meaningful, that like it was not about this sort of like connection between them that neither of them have control over. It was about who he actually was to her as a person. And I think that's going to be maybe more meaningful to
I
him,
agree.
maybe a little bit of both, right? Like maybe,
Yeah.
I could see a world where we get his POV, we get another kind of prologue situation similar to book 2 where we start with him and he's like, that moment both broke and elated me.
Yes.
Because I didn't want to hear that as my friend, but I also really loved hearing that
There was
she
this
couldn't let
real
go
connection
because of our
to the
connection. Yeah.
relationship that we have, a very genuine one that is starting from a place of friendship and is going to
Yeah.
grow into
Yeah.
something unbreakable. But yeah, I felt the same thing. I felt this mixture of that being a positive and a negative. It was kind of saying that's where she's at this point in time, which is good,
Yeah.
but not great. I obviously wanted her to say, I feel this connection to you and I can't be away from you and I just need to be with you forever because you're my mate and I love you. But instead she just says that we're friends. And so I feel like there was a bit of disappointment there. And hopefully that doesn't mean that they've now just taken 3 steps back, because for me, I want them to be in the spice stage by about chapter 5 next book. If they're starting from a place of friendship, I feel like that's at least 50%. 50% before they go from friends to lovers. So
I feel like that's probably what's gonna happen. But maybe we'll get, like, some teasers where they'll, like, passionately kiss, and then she's like, "I
right.
can't," I don't know. Maybe we'll get
Yeah,
something.
yeah. Look, hopefully, I mean, there's definitely a lot of primal needs there that just they can't control. She's going to
Yeah,
bite him. It's just which one's going to bite which first. Is she going to bite him or is he going to bite her? And what happens when they draw blood? Like, what is going to
yeah,
happen?
yeah.
That's very.
I was just thinking, we have seen sort of, like, his dream about them in the bedroom. We haven't seen like, she has had a spicy dream about Blake, but Blake wasn't there, or at the
Mhm.
very least, she doesn't remember. So maybe what will happen in book 3 is, like, she'll be having these, like, intimate scenes about the 2 of them, and then he shows up and he's like, "Oh, dreaming about me again, I see." Like, I could totally see that happening. And she, of course, would be like, "No, it's just the bond, it doesn't mean anything," and he's
I
like,
can't
"Okay, keep
control
rolling
these
your
dreams.
Yeah, yeah, that would be great. I would be into
Okay.
that.
All right. 2 more questions, and then I think I'm done. Okay. First one is, what was your favorite romantasy moment in these books? Did you have a
Ooh.
favorite moment? I know this is always a favorite question we like to ask.
It has to be. It has to be. No, it's like a tie. It's a tie for me between "Get your hands off my mate," amazing,
Yeah.
and that, like, super intense line about, like, "I'm your enemy. I want you to, like, hone your skill because when you come after me, I want you to bring in all you got." I just loved that. I thought that was so good. What about you?
It's so hard. There's so many. um, I think I mean, the ending, of course, the unleash line was just so epic when he just gave her permission to let go was so epic. But also when he bit her and made her part of the clan, I just loved it because the
Yeah.
way it kind of should have been Callum, and then at the last minute he's like, oh, for God's sake, and he just does it. And it was such perfection, such a Rhys-Sand kind of moment for him, and just beautiful. I love how he did it in such a nonchalant, not taking it seriously, but also undercurrents of as if he couldn't have been the one to bite her when it was his mate. Like, I feel like if Callum had gone to bite her, he would have like pushed him out of the way and bitten her first.
Oh,
I don't know. I don't think
absolutely.
he could have actually let it happen, even though he acted like it was no big deal for him. And that's kind of what I think I'm going to love seeing explored in the next book, is him acting like it's no big deal, while undercurrents are that there's no way he can control the kind of urges he has towards Aurora.
Yeah, for sure. Yes. I can't wait.
All right, final thing. What do you do you have any theories for what you think is going to happen in book 3 that we should maybe look forward to?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I think my big theory is that, like I said, I actually am now convinced that it's like history repeating itself, or like reincarnation of like this love triangle. And I think we're going to learn more about the lore and like the relationship between the moon, night, the sun, and the first alpha wolf or whatever. So I think that's really good. And then I think she's going to become queen. I think Blake is going to help her, and she's going to become the queen of sort of the Southlands. And
she can potentially become the queen of the whole land. And I think she's potentially going to bring peace, because the wolves now love her because she's the heart of the moon. And then the Southlands, well, she's potentially the queen of there anyway. So she has, she could potentially.
And I just love that, like, she was like, my brother doesn't want to be king. I'm the queen. I want to go take that throne. I love that. I love that. Any theories that you have?
Well, no, I just want her and Blake to hook up. That's all I want. It's just, for me, a mate's bond is so sacred, and I just can't wait to be in that world again and see these two characters finally accepting that bond, accepting the connection they have, a ton of spice, and then just like fun fantasy that's all happening around it. That's all just that's the icing on the cake for me, all that stuff. It's like the cake for me is the relationship. I need, like, that's what I'm so excited for. And I can't remember how many books are actually going to predict it to be in this series.
I don't know. I'm
not sure if it's 3 or 5. Definitely not more than 5. Whether the next book's going to be the resolution book, or whether we're still
it's really hard to wrap it up next book, honestly.
Yeah, because I think there's still so much. We're only just being introduced to these bigger villains in this world, and I feel like now there's going to be, I think there's still so much more there to explore. So I don't see this getting wrapped up completely next book, especially because we're only probably going to get to them accepting their bond, and that probably 50-70% of the way through the book, and then there's going to be the big baddies to still come and overcoming the night
because
god.
they have to have the book where they kind of unite, and then you have to have the book where like they united together take down the villain. So like I feel like it has to be at least 4. So we'll see. We'll see.
If we like compared it to Rowan and Aelin, we're kind of in kind of Queen of Shadow. Is it Queen of Shadows? That's like the 4th book. We're kind of around 4th book zone, where we're up to. And like it depends how big she's going to make the world, and whether she's just going to sort of make it more relationship focused, in which case it might wrap up next book. But if it's going to be this big epic world and epic fantasy, then we're potentially going to see it then still get so much bigger. So very exciting.
I know. I'm so excited.
So excited.
Well, I think that is all we have today. Almost all we have. Almost 2 hours. Thank you so much for listening, and let us know, what you thought of this book. Tag us in your posts. As always, please rate, review, and subscribe. That helps us out. Follow us on Instagram, and we cannot wait to hear what you guys think of this book, and tell us how obsessed you are, and then we will all be so excited next summer when it comes out. The 3rd book comes out.
So exciting. Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.